Dive into a little bit more of the academic side of motor learning. But hopefully, by the end of this, we give you some tools to go back with your teams and be like, I can do that right away. And so, and that's what we're going to try to model tomorrow when we go out on the court with your teams is how can we increase the rate of learning? How can we be more efficient within our 2 hours? All that type of stuff. And so let's dive in here. With motor learning, there's 3 big ideas we're going to talk about. And the first one is goal presentation. In other words, demonstrations. Helping your athletes understand the demands of what you're trying to teach them. Goal presentation. Motor program development. So what does the science tell us about how humans learn? Not just in sports, but in all aspects of life. How do we learn? And how can we optimize learning in our practice environment and with our feedback? Reps, feedback. Turns out that reps certainly, Rob Gray would argue about feedback, but reps certainly are a massive component of athlete improvement. Giving your athletes the right kind of reps, and I like to say that not all reps are created equal. So we're going to dive into that, kind of clarify what we mean there. Turns out that learners have a limited ability to process information. So I don't know about you guys, but I would say that not just kids have a limited ability to process information. I would say that all of us, to some degree, have a limited ability to process information. And I will admit that when someone starts talking to me about complicated things and they just go on and on and on, after about 5 minutes, I'm having to really try hard to pay attention to them. Maybe that's just me, but I think as adults, this applies to us, and it certainly applies to your athletes, and it really applies to your 12-year-olds, right? They don't care what you have to say. They don't. They want to play volleyball. They want to do all the other things 12-year-olds like to do. So, we have to figure out how to reduce information as coaches. Number one complaint we get for summer camps, every summer. I get 2 to 3 phone calls a summer, every single time. Your coaches are talking too much. Coaches talk too much. And I think we've probably all been there. We've probably all been there, where all of a sudden you're like, little self-check, and you're like, I'm talking way too much right now, and these athletes don't care what I'm saying right now. They're tuned out. And so rather than having conversations during practice, we need to train ourselves to get in, get out, efficient feedback, quick feedback. We're going to show you how to do that here. Demonstrations and the power of them. We're going to talk about that a little bit. I love this quote. I was beginning to learn what all good teachers must learn. Images are better than words. Showing is better than telling. And too much information is worse than none. So too much information is worse than nothing. Put a little star by that quote in your book and remind yourself of that on a regular basis. By the way, we're violating this tonight because we're giving you way too much information.
Find it? All right, another one, just like that. Right in the old bucket. Good toss. See, that's much better. That was good. You had your shoulder pointed, you kept your eyes on your target. Let's do it again. Watch me.
The durability of the Volkswagen Passat. You pass down something he will be grateful for. That's the power of German engineering.
Okay. That was a Super Bowl commercial a while back, and I was like, oh geez, that's perfect. Point your elbow, do this, do that. Does that kid care about what his dad's telling him? Probably not. What is he watching? The demo. That's what matters. Now, back up here. We're going to briefly touch on this ecological dynamics concept, okay, just so you have an idea. If you don't already, maybe you do. We're going to touch on it a little bit. But it's the idea that athletes are complex, self-organizing, dynamic systems whose movements emerge by interactions between task, environment, and performer. So we got to figure out tasks, what environment are we in, what gym are we in, and the performer, the goals. And so repetitions of movement are necessary in order to solve a motor problem. Repetitive solutions of a problem are also needed because conditions, the environment, change. The gym you play in changes. The temperature of the gym you play in changes. The lighting in the gym that you play in changes. The opponent on the other side of the net changes. The person who's serving you the ball changes. And so the best example of this is in t-ball. My son is in this, we'll see a video here in a minute, but should we be tossing a 6-year-old a little pitch, or should we be letting them hit off of a tee? And the idea behind this is that we are really good as humans, our bodies are really good, our brains are really good at self-correcting and problem solving. So where we're at Gold Medal Squared, where we're at with this is we've always thought that giving your athletes the opportunity to try something before we prescribe or front load them with a whole bunch of information is highly beneficial. So we love that part of it. We're all in. So we're going to talk about that. Let your kids try it before we go say, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this as a coach. So let's start there. Here's my boy. I don't want to coach him because I'll screw him up. I'll make him worse. If I go to him and I say, hey, hold your elbow at this angle and stand with your feet at this angle and do this and do that, that's not going to help him. He's 6. The only thing that I've ever seen his coach, who was a college baseball player, do is when kids go they go up to hit, they stand right on top of the plate. You know, they're like, oh, here's this white thing, I'm just going to go stand here. It makes sense, right? And so the only thing I've seen the coach do is, oh, we don't stand on the plate, step back from the plate. Oh, which is totally counterintuitive to a 6-year-old, by the way. But that's the only thing I've seen him do. So all he has done is picked up a bat, and I've said to him, hit this ball when I throw it to you. And all he's done is watched his friends who play baseball do it. And so he's figured out that you stand sideways, and then you hold the bat like this, and when I throw the baseball to you, he hits it. So this is ecological dynamics at its finest. This is how it works with kids. Okay, he does some of it, yeah.
Kids got a gun.
So you can see he picks up his back leg and he pivots around sometimes. He does these things that you don't want to do, but we don't care, right? Most of what he's doing is pretty good. And he's having fun. And his head's not full of 50,000 things he doesn't care about that I told him, right? That one is put into spins around, which you're not supposed to spin around, we don't care. Yeah, mom's coaching. So, I think, you guys, some of you probably have kids, but I think this is how all kids learn. And we didn't learn how to walk as humans by someone telling us, hey, pick your leg up and have a 20% angle in your knee, and take a right step, and then land on your heel. Make sure to land on your heel, and then roll your foot and go to your toe. That's not how we learn how to walk. And so we've somehow gotten to this place where we've gone from really simple to, I think there's quite a few coaches that are over-coaching. And we've made it too complicated. And so we love this idea, and the point, what I would say to you guys is, there's a time and a place for keys and corrections and restraints, but when we're introducing skills to your athletes and we're defining the demands of the skill, let them go try it. and let them go try it for maybe longer than you typically would. And so that's what ecological dynamics is. I think you'll start hearing about it more and more. We're certainly on it and looking into it, but that's kind of the idea behind it. Demos aren't enough. Okay, so we can't just say, here's what hitting a baseball looks like, good luck for the rest of your life, right? Learners will attend to task irrelevant information. So in your gym, how many courts do we have in here? 5? If you have 5, 6, whatever volleyball teams in here playing volleyball, what are your 13 and 14-year-olds going to watch when you're trying to coach them? Yeah, everything but you, right? Everything but you. And so they're going to look at her friend's shoes, or that court just celebrated. They look like they're having more fun than we are. Whatever, you know? And that's task irrelevant information. So we need to get them dialed into some cues, some focus points. And so dynamical systems, we don't think, in and of itself, is enough. Constraints are needed to increase the rate of learning. Constraints are needed to limit options. Okay, meaning if we're focusing on a specific skill, or we're trying to develop a certain skill, we're going to block that activity to really focus in on that movement. And we don't have enough time to say on self-exploration. That's big in ecological dynamics. Self-exploration. You're going to go and you're just going to explore the environment, explore the task, the goal, your body, and we're going to figure all this out on our own. We think there's ways that we can speed this up. Okay? Teaching keys. We're going to call them restraints. We're going to clump keys into that category. Teaching keys condense information. So rather than having a conversation with your athletes, we're just giving them a little tidbit of information. Attention of the athletes, they know exactly what you're saying to them. Attention of the coaches. I told you one of my weaknesses as a coach is staying focused on the thing I'm supposed to stay focused on. I see this and I want to go coach that, and I see that and I want to go coach that. So I'm trying to stay focused and be simple. Helps me be focused when I have teaching keys to work with. It enhances memory. And it speeds up learning. And so I think we can all agree, no matter where you came from in the world of volleyball, we can all agree that in order to be a good passer, you need to have some type of a good platform. I think that's a universal belief that we can all agree on. And we like to say straight and simple. So we like our arms to be straight. We don't like them doing all this crazy stuff. We like a nice, simple move with our platform. And once your athletes understand the demands of that skill, once they understand what straight and simple means, it becomes this incredibly efficient two-way channel of communication. And so when you get to a point where everyone understands what it means, you don't even have to say anything. And so let's say one of your athletes bends their arm when they pass. They do this, and they come back down, and they pass. I'm going to talk with that athlete. Hey, straight and simple. That's your one key that we need to be better at. The rest of your keys are pretty good. And so if I say, hey, Sally, and I just do that. Hey, Sally. I don't even have to tell her. She knows. She knows. And so rather than going onto the court and saying, hey, you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this. Hey, Sally. Boom. She knows, and I'm on to the next thing. Get the drill going again. So we love keys, and we love the idea. We've seen it work over and over and over again with clubs all around the country who have enormous success collaborating with keys club-wide. And so I just can't recommend that enough. And you guys are all individuals as coaches. You might have your own tricks up your sleeve, right? You might have a key that's different than some of our keys that you've had great success with. Awesome. Use them. Use them. If you've coached 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and you have some of the magician in you, and you've come up with some keys that the kids love and they think are silly and they're fun, use them. The principle behind this is simplicity, efficiency of communication. We understand the demands of the skill, and we're not wasting time having conversations and practice. Words have little meaning. We've beat that up pretty good. We're going to demo the skill, okay? And this is kind of where all this comes together. We're going to try to model this tomorrow, coaches, when we go play volleyball. But what we want to do is we want to say, hey, ladies, this is what a pass looks like. Or ladies, this is what a spike looks like. I run to the net and I hit a volleyball. over the net, hopefully. Now go try it. So here's where some ecological dynamics comes in. We've shown them the skill. Go try the skill. And what you're going to find is that most of your athletes are going to do parts of the skill well already. And so now you're not saying, hey, Sally, here's 5 keys, filling your head, prescribing all of this stuff. But we're saying, you know what? You're already really good at 3 passing keys, so now we get to focus in on 2 that you're not good at. And we're approaching it from that direction. And so we're checking boxes, and we're simplifying. And so if you say, hey, go run to the net and spike with your 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds, just go run and spike. Most of them are going to go run, and they're going to jump up, and they're going to try to hit the ball. And we can kind of get a pretty good sense early. Some of them are going to be goofy-footed. Some of them are going to take a 3-step approach. Some of them are going to take a 4-step approach. But generally speaking, they're going to do part of the skill properly. And now we can kind of go from there. And I just think it's a really, really good approach. After they go try it, and remember, let them try it for maybe longer than you have been. Or let them try it for a little bit longer than you may think. Come back and present a key. And so we'll do this tomorrow, but we just did the whole skill. Here's what passing looks like, and now we're going to come back and we're going to say, let's get our wrists and hands together. And so this is where I would push back on ecological dynamics a little bit. I would say, I toss my daughter who's 8, I toss her a volleyball. And you guys tell me who have kids, but she holds her hands like this right away. I've never coached her at volleyball, I just pepper with her, I play volleyball with her. She holds her hands like this. Your little kids, when they first start passing, hold their hands like that? Some of them? Some of them maybe do, yeah, they do all kinds of weird stuff. I would argue that if I never coach my daughter ever again, that she would get to 12, 13, or 14 years old, and she would not figure this out on her own. I think that's something that's kind of hard to figure out on your own. And so now at the age of 12, 13, or 14, I have this really gnarly habit that I have to break. And so at some point, we need to help these athletes along. And we don't want them to create these really gnarly habits that it's like changing a golf swing or changing a golf grip. Super hard to do. And if we can get some of these keys going early, it certainly helps. So we're going to go do wrist and hands together. We're going to come back. We're going to present the next key. We're going to go try it with a focus on that key, and so on. Each one of our skills has about 5 keys. We don't think there needs to be any more than that. My definition of a really good key is that it takes care organically of lots of other things. And so if we get into a 4-step approach and we have the right timing, the right rhythm, then a lot of times our arms are going to kind of swing how they should. Sometimes they're not, right? Your kids are going to have crazy arms. But if we can get one key going really well, more often than not, it's going to help with some of the other keys. It's going to organically kind of get things into place. Okay? Setting is a big one. If I run to the ball with some rhythm and calmly, and I go into that ball, good feet are going to lead to good hands and better touch. And so that's an example of good footwork transferring into some other part of my mechanic there. We're going to go through this tomorrow with your team, with passing, spiking, and serving. And so coaches will do a great job putting this into action with your teams on your court so that you can kind of see exactly what we're talking about. Full presentation. Motor program development. How do we learn? How does the body learn? How does the brain learn? How does the body learn to move? And so, what are skills? In the world of motor learning, in the world of science, what are skills? We're going to talk about this idea of general versus specific. We'll dive into that. Whole versus part. If you haven't heard of these terms, hopefully by the end of this you'll understand. Block versus random. So what are skills? We're not going to spend a ton of time on what are skills, but basically your body changes, your brain changes when you develop new skills in these tiny little ways. And so the nervous system is embedded in the body, which is embedded in the environment. And essentially it's elastic. When your body changes, when you develop new skills, your brain changes. And this guy, let's see, where are we? Skills general. Human beings have an amazing capacity to learn new skills and adapt to new environments. So that's kind of what we've been talking about. The most notable impediment to this goal is that learning tends to be quite specific to the trained regimen and does not transfer to even qualitatively similar tasks. Okay, so our environment, our volleyball environment, is highly specific. And we need to break this down and try to figure out, are skills general or are they specific? I don't know how we still have that video here, but it's a silly video. They're essentially, the point of it is if running speed ladders made you good at football, something to that effect. And we spend a lot of time with speed ladders in our country. What do speed ladders help you get better at? Speed ladders. And do speed ladders transfer into being a good wide receiver? Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. But are we going to spend 2.5 hours doing speed ladders if we're in a football practice? No, right? Obviously. And so let's dive into this a little bit. Michael Jordan. Did any of you watch his documentary during the pandemic? So he won 3 championships. He got bored. And he was like, all right, I'm just going to go play baseball. He went and played baseball, but he couldn't hit. So everyone said Michael Jordan is the best athlete in the world. The best athlete in the world. And so he and everyone else thought, well, I'll just go ahead and skip on over to this sport and see how it goes. Turns out he couldn't hit because these are far different neurological processes, different motor programs. They're not the same skill at all. And so we can't say that Michael Jordan was the best athlete. We can say that Michael Jordan is what? The best basketball player. Not the best athlete. So he went back after he learned that he couldn't hit in baseball, and he won 3 more championships. Not too shabby, right? And so, do skills transfer? And the answer is mostly no. Mostly no. Now, do we all know that person who is really good at lots of things? Okay, if you're a musician, you can play the piano, you can pick up a guitar, you can sing, or maybe you're a good snowboarder, you can ski, you can ice skate, you can do all the things. You're just good at lots of things. Is that person generally athletic or not? Can we say that person's generally athletic? Trick question. Kind of. That person have general athletic ability. What do you think? I'm hearing some grumbling over here. Is it you? What do you think, coaches?
No.
Tell me why.
Because you said it was a trick question.
Because I said it was a trick question. Give me a better reason than that. Coaches. Oh, what do you say? Okay. Not working every day? Close. Close. Coaches. It's dark in here, I know. Coaches, is there such thing as general athletic ability? You don't know, that's okay. Good answer. We don't have to know it all.
I think there is, but I also think people who don't have athletic ability can be taught a sport and do it very well.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation. Appreciate it. Coaches, someone else tell me. Does general athletic ability exist? You think so? Thank you. What else do we think?
Yeah.
So we got a debate. Good. Perfect. We have some that say no, we have some that say yes. No. Doesn't exist. Okay. Yes. Thank you, guys. Had to beat it out of you. Turns out that it does not exist for the most part. And you still think it does, and I hope I caught you saying that.
My son is 7 years old, and some of those kids do not have a
Okay. This is great. I struggled with this also for many years, okay? Because my son plays hockey, of all things. I live in Arizona. How the heck can you play hockey? But he plays ice hockey. And I often wonder, does this somehow make him better at rollerblading? Makes sense, right? Like, it's hard to say no to that. Like, I get it. I think we finally have the proper way to explain this. Generally speaking, if you're good at lots of things, you have lots of specific skills, and you're a good learner. You're a good learner. And you're able to acquire skill faster than someone who's not a good learner. So there is no such thing as general athletic ability, but there is such thing that allows you to be good at lots of different things. Skill acquisition. Your skill acquisition is better than someone else's. Okay? Now, 6 categories of specificity that underlie transfer of learning. This is what I think, this is the best way that we've ever found that can explain this finally after 30 years of people getting all bent out of shape about this, right?
Don't trigger me. Don't trigger me.
It's a great debate. We love it. Category 1, there's 6 categories. Similarity in the muscular coordination of the movement. Okay? When we're performing different skills or a skill, is there similarity in the muscular coordination? When we're performing 2 different skills, is there similarity in the biomechanical structure of the movement? Is there similarity in energy systems? Energy systems means our body, our emotions. How much energy does it require? How much thinking do we have to do to perform the skill? Sensory patterns is what I see and smell and hear, all those things. Are they the same between these 2 skills that we're comparing? Similarity in the intention or the goal of the movement. And then affect or emotion. If we're playing Italy in the semifinals in Brazil, is the emotional demands of that match greater than the emotional demands of a friendly match that we're playing? Certainly, right? So that's what that means. Now, do you have any of these things in here? Yeah, we use these things sometimes on the national team. That's actually probably at the AFC. Setter tutoring with an artificial target. So, I'm a setter, and I'm setting into this hoop right here to get lots of reps in practice. Versus I'm setting in a match. Similarity in muscular coordination. Is there similarity in muscular coordination between those 2 moves?
Yeah.
Yes. We can give a little check mark in the yes, this probably transfers a little bit box, right? Similarity in biomechanical structure. What do you think? Biomechanical structure, meaning my mechanics.
Yeah.
Certainly, right? Okay. Energy systems. Does it take me the same amount of energy to set into a hoop as it does to dish the rock in a match with a live hitter and a block on the other side of it? I would say this is very, very low transfer. So we'll give this a check in the no transfer box. Sensory patterns. I'm looking at a hoop rather than a moving hitter, and I'm not in an arena where I have fans. So where are we going to put this check? Which column? No, right? The goal. So the movement, target versus moving hitter. Yeah, the goal is to get it in the net. So maybe a little bit, but a net is far different than a moving hitter. Okay, so we're going to give this probably not, but maybe a little. Okay? Emotion. Clearly the emotional demands of setting into a hoop versus getting immediate feedback from a hitter who gets stuffed or who hits a ball out of bounds or crushes a ball down and gets a kill. All of those things is entirely different, right?
Yeah.
Entirely different. And so, I'm in the same world you are. I'm just starting youth sports, okay? You go and you watch these kids and they're just trying to figure all this stuff out, and all of these things are totally in play. Okay, is it cold outside? Do I like the pitcher who's throwing the ball at me? There's all these things, right, that are in my environment that are going to affect. Did someone, my little boy said, yeah, someone spit and it kind of got on me the other night. I was like, okay, probably happens in baseball. That was my answer. I don't know if that was good. But, there's all these things that happen, right? And so I think this is just really applicable, and I think it makes a ton of sense. And so if we go one more step further, oh, we didn't put it in here. I think we can say this, that 6-on-6 volleyball is as close as we can get to full transfer. But even 6-on-6 volleyball in practice doesn't get you 100% of the way there. Because you're not in a gym, you don't have fans, you don't have referees, all the things, right? So there is no practice environment that exists where you can achieve 100% transfer. Yes, sir.
So what do we consider transferable versus non-transferable? How many boxes have to be checked to kind of be considered worthwhile?
I don't know. Yeah. We're going to get there, actually. So I do know a little bit, but we're going to get there. We're going to talk about block versus random, and a lot of that's going to talk about this middle area where we want to operate in that's not totally artificial. It's not totally real. It's kind of going to be somewhere in the middle. So if I don't answer it in a minute, tell me. Yeah. Absolutely useless is that answer. Okay, sorry. Whole versus part. So we're getting there. Working on your arm swing by hitting a ball against the wall. Okay? Or performing a full approach with a volleyball at the net. Okay, so if I'm hitting a ball against the wall, that's part of the spike, right? Or, I don't know, you can break up skills in a million different ways. Versus doing the whole thing. We're going to kind of examine what's better. Do we want to break a skill into 25 different pieces? Or do we want to perform the whole skill with keys? So I'm sure you can figure out what we like, but we're going to break it down a little bit. Laying on the ground, setting, to work on touch. Versus focusing on a key or a constraint while standing up, setting a volleyball off a pass to a player. I'm sure you can figure out by now which one we prefer. In the 30 whole part studies reviewed, not one favored teaching methods that use part or progressive part methods of instruction. The majority of these studies, some variation, that's important, because we're not just saying go play 6-on-6 volleyball all day. It's not what we're saying, coaches. Some variation of the whole method was associated with superior learning. Okay? We're going to talk a lot about kind of semi-blocked. This whole overload information processing. So, coaches, I'd like for you guys to answer this one for me. Someone. Yeah. You take your 12-year-olds and they've never played volleyball before, and it's day one of practice, and you say, let's go play 6-on-6 volleyball with live serves. Does whole overload information processing ability? Are they going to be overloaded?
Yes.
100%, right? So we understand that. So what's too much? What's not enough? So we call it the flow state. If we take your 12-year-olds and they have to dig Matt Anderson, are they going to have anxiety?
Yes.
Yes. If we take your 12-year-olds and they're hitting it at Eric Shoji, our world-class libero, is he going to experience boredom? Those are obviously two extreme examples, but where is that level in your gym where we're challenging your kids enough to where they're growing, where they're acquiring new skill, where they're challenged, and where is that level where they start to get bored? And if we can operate in that flow state, in that state where they're making little strides, that's where we want to be. And it's okay, coaches, if we overload them a little bit. It's okay. That means they're learning. That means they're being challenged. If you're running a practice or a drill and it's ugly and you're making you feel uncomfortable, like this is a terrible drill, power through it. Power through it. And just understand that you're probably in a good place. You're probably in an okay place. And so, and maybe you might not be, right? Like we have to, you might just determine it's a crummy drill. But, okay, on to this. We're going to get into your question here a little bit. Blocked versus random. So if you've been around volleyball, you've probably heard this debate plenty. It's, do we want to stand on a box and do blocked activities all day, or do we want to play 6-on-6 volleyball all day? And the argument for, gotta make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself here. The argument for blocked is that we get a lot of reps, right? We get a ton of reps. And it's great for defining the demands of the skill, especially with your young kids. Okay, we have to do that, right? You can't just take a 12-year-old and say, hey, we're going to go play Nettles Pepper and we're going to hit a million balls at you and you're going to just have to figure out how to dig. Like, we have to define the demands of the skill. And using blocked activities where we're removing variables can help a young athlete immensely. Okay? So we're going to concede that and say, okay, that's fine. We're good with that. And so you've seen coaches standing on a box, hitting a ball at a defender. I've seen the Brazilian national team coach, the most successful coach in our sport, standing on a box in our gym in Anaheim, hitting balls at his players. Okay, so, and they're good. Brazil's good. Using a device that holds a ball in the same position when learning how to spike. I hope that none of you are vested owners of the spike yet. If you are, I apologize. But this is not how we learn to. This is not how we learn to move. This is not how we learn how to spike. And in no situation ever are you going to be hitting a ball that's stationary. And so we just think it's, especially in this particular situation, we don't think it provides any value whatsoever. I'll throw it out there. A box, I think it can be used for learners, defining the demands of the skill, teaching movements. Okay? Block practice is better for retention only for beginners. The findings seem to suggest that block practice is effective until the learner can just barely do it. And that random practice is always more beneficial thereafter. So we want to use block to teach the skills until they can just barely do it, and then we're going to spend more time in semi-blocked or semi-random or fully random types of activities. Okay? So let's kind of sort this out here. Standing on a box is fine. Well, let's do it for 5 minutes or 8 minutes. Let's not do it for 2 hours. Okay, we're defining the demands of skills, and we want to get out of that as quickly as we can. Quick story about a club in Seattle. They brought us in just like you guys brought us in, and the plan was on Saturday we were going to teach the fundamentals with a bunch of their teams. With this particular format, we were with the same teams on Saturday and on Sunday. And so I was with the 17s team, and this particular club was founded and coached by a bunch of former Microsoft executives. When I say Microsoft executives, one of them was one of the main guys in Windows Media. He was top 3 in the Excel project for Microsoft. These are true, like, we're retired and now we're just going to play with all our money and coach volume. Okay? So we get up there and they had an Excel file with 300 questions for us. 300 questions for us. And I'm like, we don't have time for this. But what they did really well was their kids were perfect with their mechanics in blocked activities. And so if I tossed the ball to one of their 17-year-olds or 15-year-olds, whatever, their wrists and hands were together, they bumped the ball back, and they looked perfect. And so I left that day going, why did you guys bring us up here? You guys are on it. You're doing a great job. You're smarter than all of us, and you're good at coaching volleyball. Okay? We went to Sunday, and it turns out it was a train wreck. This is a 17s team with Division I athletes who are being recruited. They're good. It's a nice team. We get in the gym, and have you guys ever played volleyball before? That was my thought. Have you ever played volleyball before? And so it turns out the most valuable part of that entire weekend for these guys was you can't just live, what forest are you chopping down trees in, right? You can't just live in blocked activities for your whole life, because it's really good to get good in that phase, but clearly you guys haven't transferred these skills into real life volleyball. And so that was a big aha moment for them. We got some of these skills going into transferring into real life volleyball. That's the magic, you guys. Moving from block to random. We're going to go out tomorrow and we're going to teach your kids our passing keys. Wrist and hands together, straight and simple, angle our arms, all the things. And we're going to spend, in a normal 4-day camp, we're working with Zoe, we're going to spend 3 hours, Zoe. It's drudgery. The kids are just like, this camp is awful. And then by Thursday, I think they like it. But on Monday morning, they were wondering what's going on. We spend 3 hours passing. And then we go and we play doghouse, or we play queen of the court, or we play even butterfly, where a coach is entering a ball over the net. And what happens to all that work that we just put in? Gone. All of it. All of it. Okay? I don't know. If any of you have a little bit of it, it's 5% of it. I'll give you that. I'm not going to give you any more than that. So when we move from block to random, it doesn't transfer. At least not right away. And so what do we do? What do we do? Oftentimes we'll just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again in block and hoping that it magically will appear someday in our 6-on-6 activity, right? I've been down that road before. We're going to keep standing on a box and I'm going to keep hitting balls at you until you figure out how in real 6-on-6 volleyball how to dig a ball down the line. And they never do. Or you're goofy-footed and we're working on spiking. And every single time that I toss you a ball, you can take a 4-step approach the proper way and you can go up and take a rip. But every single time that we start playing volleyball, you're goofy-footed again. That's how it works. Any of you have goofy-footed athletes? And is that how it works?
Exactly.
Okay. So we're going to talk about semi-block drills, and we're going to talk about this idea that you have to spend your time coaching within the game. And so if you spend all this time on passing keys, you don't get to just go play volleyball and hope and pray that it appears. And I'll tell you that Carl McGowan, the founder of Gold Medal Squared, I've been in the gym with our country's best. Nobody did this better than him. And that was coaching within volleyball and demanding that you do what he asked you to do in a blocked activity or in a broken down activity in real life volleyball. And so I had a screwed up arm swing. And so he used to make me go and do these little silly blocked warm-up activities. 5 minutes, 3 minutes. So I knew what he wanted me to do, right? And I knew how to do it in a block setting. And then we'd go play volleyball, competitive volleyball. And the second I reverted, which I did, blow the whistle, and he said, hey, what did we work on before practice? Try it again. Okay, he's paying attention. That's half the battle. Coach is paying attention. And it wasn't like 3 reps down the road he would forget. Hey, what are we trying to work on today? Do it again. And I loved it. I freaking loved it because he was coaching me and he was helping me get better within volleyball. And he wasn't just forgetting about me. It wasn't just a situation where, all right, go play volleyball now. I'm done coaching for the day. And if you guys want the goofy-footed athletes to change, if you want mechanics to truly appear in volleyball, that's how you have to coach. And it's harder, and it's more demanding, and it takes more of your energy. But that's the only way to do it. And so, again, there's so many things we can get distracted with, but if you have an athlete with one thing, just pick one thing a day. And when we're playing real-life volleyball, hey, we're going to work on this. We're going to get this, and don't be afraid to stop. And you'll get really good at stopping, coaching, maybe doing a correction, and getting going again. And it's not this big ordeal. There's no drama, nothing like that. We're just getting in, getting out, putting focus onto the skill, and they will change so fast. I could have your goofy-footed attackers hitting it the proper way within one practice if you just focus on them playing within volleyball. But we forget that. Okay, so if there's nothing else that you like this weekend, you hate everything that I say, you hate all of our keys, and you have to run a rotation defense, please remember this. Coach within volleyball. Coach within the game. And that's how your athletes are going to actually make changes. Okay? Even under ideal conditions, so a little summary here. Even under ideal conditions, it's impossible to achieve 100% transfer. Practice to match. Only 6-on-6 competition, practice scenarios come close. And the only way to truly get these reps is to be in a real life game. Skills learned in an overly controlled practice are fragile. Skills learned in an overly controlled practice environment are fragile. Once upon a time, I coached at Arizona State. And our in-state rivals down the road were very much a blocked style of play. They were good. Their athletes were far better than our athletes. We had a bunch of little in the Pac-12, 5'9", 5'10" outside hitters considered small. We had a bunch of athletes like that. They had a bunch of 6'4" flyers. We got into so many dogfights with them because our little 5'10" kids could dig, they could read, they could see, they could move, they could hit with different ranges because they hit against the block every day in practice. And we beat that team more often than we lost to that team. And it was always this really kind of, these are two drastically different styles. And the only way that we had a chance was to play volleyball and get a ton of reps. Our athletes need help transferring skill from a block or controlled activity to more random activity. So again, please make that a priority. That's big time. All right. Hold stretch here, coaches. I know it's a lot. Reps are how you get to be great. Not all reps are created equal. Put a focus on the challenge or goal, and then apply the strengths to guide the athlete. Training can still focus on a repetition of a skill, but we need to inject sufficient randomness into that, whatever it is that we're doing. And so, we can talk about blocked, semi-blocked, semi-random, and fully random. And so I'll give you one example really quick. We have a drill that's called ball setter, ball hitter. Maybe some of you know it, but there's an offense on one side of the net, there's a defense on the other side of the net. The coach and the setter initiate the drill, and then we play volleyball. And it's a blocking drill because the coach can see the blockers really well and give feedback right where the coach is standing. And what we can do is we can say, all right, we're playing volleyball, but we're training our blockers, and rather than our blockers having to go 3 different directions, I'm going to block in the middle, I have to go left, I have to go right, we can say, let's just play 10 balls to the left right now. And now we're going to have that blocker read really well, be calm and balanced, and make really good moves, one direction, but they're still seeing the game, they're seeing that ball off the pass, they're seeing that ball come into the setter's hands, they're making a full move, they're seeing that set, they're seeing the hitter, and they're getting over the net. Okay? That's semi-blocked. We love that. We love that. Because we're removing some variables to help them along, to try to get them to where we want them to be. Increasing reps. This is big time for your 4 hours. You guys getting 4 hours a week? 6? 4? Okay. How are we going to warm up, coaches? We're going to talk about that. Gino, up at UConn, he gets to say these things when you win however many championships he's won, but stretching before practice is the biggest waste of time in the history of sports. He's won how many national championships? 20? I don't know. UConn women's basketball. He gives players 10 minutes to stretch so they can all sit around and talk about what movie they saw, what pair of shoes they saw in some store. I stay in my office until they're done. It's nauseating. So, yeah, you get to say these things if you're Gino, right? And he's this kind of colorful personality. He's a pretty funny dude. But in all seriousness, you can't find, I looked hard, it's really hard to find studies that say that static stretching prevents injuries or prevents soreness. It doesn't. 300 and something studies out there, and you can go look yourself. By the way, my wife's a yoga instructor, so it makes me a little uncomfortable to say that stretching is the biggest waste of time in the history of sports. But people stretch because I stretch. Feels good. Feels good to stretch. But when it comes to performance, when it comes to soreness, injury prevention, static stretching is a waste of time. The dynamic stuff, the volleyball movement stuff, block trips, that's how we want to warm up. And I do think that warming up is important, okay? And for your kids that are 14, 15, and as they get older, these kids are playing a lot of volleyball. And for the kids that are super into it, they're playing volleyball year round. And they're not in a weight room that is doing the right types of lifting and mechanics to build these little muscles for stability. They don't get that. And so the fitness part, the strength and conditioning part of youth volleyball is missing just in most cases. And even if they do have it, oftentimes it's not as dialed in as it probably should be. And so we have to warm up and we have to take care of our bodies to some degree. But when you have 4 hours a week, let's do that with some light volleyball movements, with some meaningful movements that are actually helping us become better volleyball players. So we have pre-practice activities that we're going to talk about to help us get warmed up. And we can waste an enormous amount of time showing up to practice and stretching, running around the gym 20 times, doing all the things. And just remember, if you can get 1 or 2% better than the club down the street, then you might be starting to pick them off and start beating them if you're not already, okay? Tutoring. Tutoring means one-on-one. Setter tutoring, working with your libero on passing mechanics, those types of things. I would strongly recommend that when your team goes and gets a drink of water in practice, or you give them a 30-second break or 60-second break, every now and again, grab one of your players. Grab your setter. Because we tend to, I don't know, sometimes we forget about our setters, but we just blame, we get to blame everything on them. We just forget about them. Go grab them and say, hey, work on, one of your hands does this when you set, and the other one stays here. Let's work on repeatable hands. And toss them 3 to 5 balls. That's it. That's it. Hey, keep working on it. And give them a high five and go get a drink. And you're going to be blown away at how much that interaction and just the focus on that rep is going to help that athlete. Okay, it's 30 seconds. And the one-on-one and the rep and the focus to some of these details, it's going to matter. And then when you go back into the 6-on-6 activity, when they're back from their water break, you can say, hey, let's work on that now. I don't care if you screw up the set, but I want you to have clean hands. That is a highly effective tactic. Small group activities, we're going to do a ton of this tomorrow. You'll see we're basically playing 3 versus 3, 2 versus 2. We're breaking our teams up into smaller groups so that they get more reps, more touches on the ball. Multiple entries after the serve. So if you go play volleyball with your team and you just play 6-on-6 volleyball, it's painfully slow in practice in comparison to you're going to get this ball from the server. If that server misses the serve, here's a bonus ball from the coach. If you win that rally, you earn the right for another ball. And we have all these different scenarios where we're not missing a serve, kid kicks it off the court, goes back, misses it again, kicks it off the court, and a minute and a half goes by and we haven't gotten a single rep. Okay? And so, enormous opportunity for reps, increasing the reps by just structuring your drills so that there's no such thing as a missed serve in practice. If you miss, you're getting a ball anyways on the receiving side. And just think about your little kids who can barely serve a ball on the court. Think about how many reps that team and those passers are going to get by additional entries by the coach. And so you're going to double, triple, maybe even quadruple the number of total reps in your practice by structuring your drills this way. A whiteboard. What happened? Where's my whiteboard picture? There it is. Whiteboards will change your life. Sounds dramatic. But as a coach, I believe this. And if you start to rely on a whiteboard, which is all these boards have, you're going to become a better teacher. You're going to save 10 to 15 minutes in every one of your practices of wasted time. You're going to get in and out of drills faster. All of these reasons why you're going to get more reps, and more reps equals you're going to have a better team. And you're not going to be wondering in the back of your mind, what drill should I do next? Or have it on scribbles on a piece of paper, what drill am I going to do next? And lastly, I'll say, your kids love coming to the whiteboard and seeing that you're ready. I used to love coming to the whiteboard and interacting with my coach and saying hi to him. And there's all of these benefits. Carl was this, his strength was not being warm and fuzzy. Let's say it like that. He wasn't a warm and fuzzy guy. He didn't hand out compliments very often. So when you got one, you never forgot it, right? I mean, I remember the 3 compliments he ever gave me. But as he got older, he figured out, I need to be better at this. And I remember he wrote, give Carl a hug on the whiteboard up in the pre-practice activities. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever as a college athlete. I got to go up and I got to give my coach a hug. He actually did care about me, maybe a little bit, you know? But these are the things that I remember. Not championships, not anything. I remember that stuff. And so, whiteboards are just incredibly beneficial, and I would highly recommend. All right. Kind of bringing this full circle, back to kind of the idea that we started with. This particular coach is in China. Top diving coaches in the world, producing numerous Olympic champions. And this guy who's studying her and learning from her is saying that the one thing I took away from working with her is the importance of continually revisiting the first and second states of motor acquisition, no matter how accomplished the athlete might be. So this is Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in the world right now, who says, I need to go back to my fundamentals. And the first and second phase of motor acquisition is the cognitive phase. It's back to the basics. And Ron Larson, who was the assistant coach for Hugh McCutcheon when they won the gold medal in 2008, coached at UC San Diego. And every single year, he didn't care if he had seniors, juniors, it didn't matter. He went through 3 to 4 days of camp at the beginning of every single season. And it was just doing this. We're going to go back to the basics every year. And so it doesn't matter how accomplished your team is or how many times they've heard this stuff. They probably have some areas where they can get better. All right, wrapping this up here. We want to change lives as coaches. I think I skipped some stuff here. Okay, we've got to talk about feedback real quick. There's some different types of feedback, and I like this one. The grass is green, the sky is blue, and you're goofy-footed. What do we need to do to fix that problem? No drama. Just let's go to work. Let's fix it. It's nice to ask your kids questions. What did you do on that rep? Or what did you see? Did you see the blocker there? I don't know. And you'll get that. I don't know. Which is fine. Okay, next time, see if you can see the blocker. Feed forward. So this is prescriptive, a little bit more, but hey, don't forget your wrists and hands if they have one key that they really are trying to break a bad habit. Video is obviously great, and we need to catch them doing it right, you guys. Catch them doing it right, and let's celebrate. Celebrate big change with your kids. They'll love that. Don't be a drill runner, coaches. Okay? A drill runner is a coach who only values the drill they're running today in practice. I'm really good at running drills. Okay, I come in, I know the score, I'm really good at entering balls, all the things, and that's where I put all my energy in practice. And so, yes, you're giving your athletes a lot of reps, but you're not coaching, you're not teaching, you're not giving your athletes your energy, you're not interacting with them, you're not giving them high fives, you're not celebrating change. And so, your energy in practice should be to your athletes, not to what drill should I be running or how great is this drill or anything like that. Fear of conflict. We need to talk about this. How many of you have been frustrated that one of your athletes is not making a change? All of us, hopefully. All of us. If you're not raising your hand, I don't believe you. Here's the reality, coaches. On every team you ever coach for the rest of your life, this is a universal truth in coaching. There will be good learners, medium learners, and bad learners. On our national team, on our Olympic team, men's, women's, and every Olympic team in the world, there are good learners, medium learners, and bad learners. There are athletes on our Olympic team that we've been saying the same thing to now for 12 years, and they just can't do it. So, this is a reality. And what do? And so the reality is for some of these kids, they're just not going to be able to keep up because at some point you've got to keep the team moving forward. And it's not a great reality. We'd love to have everyone moving forward together, but that's not reality. We just can't always do that. And so you have to put your energy into the kids that are willing to change, willing to progress, and you can't put all of your energy, unfortunately, into that one athlete who just can't change. It just can't make a change. And so, again, I don't think it's not warm and fuzzy to think about it like that, but it's a universal truth. And I don't know how else to say it other than you're going to have good learners, medium learners, and bad learners. And that's just the way it is. Okay, how do we talk to our athletes? And I can tell you, Mike Rogers, you had a thought about this. You called it something about being tough on this younger generation. What did you call it?
Oh, just that the compliment sandwich is no longer necessary, Mike.
Compliment sandwich. What is that? Tell us what that is.
It's like, hey, you got nice shoes. Hey, your arms were never straight, but hey, you got nice shoes.
Yeah.
There's your sandwich.
Okay, compliment sandwich. We've become this idea in our culture, I think all sports, that the younger generation, which are some of you, we're not picking on you. We're not picking on you. The younger generation can't be coached hard. Have you heard that? You're soft, whatever. Are you soft? Are you guys soft? No. All right. Here's what I think. If you build trust with your athletes through consistency, you can push them hard. I don't care how soft they may appear. If you are consistent with your approach every day, if you invest time in them, if you give coach a hug on the board, I don't know if that's appropriate for all of us, but you know what I'm saying. Give coach a high five. That's better. Then you can get after them. You can push them. They will let you do that once that trust is established. But if you come in and go body night on them from day one, you're done. It's not gonna work with this younger generation. And so I don't buy it. I don't buy the compliment sandwich thing. I think they will absolutely run through walls for you. They will work hard for you. They will accept getting tough coaching every now and again. They will accept your blow-ups, your frustrations every now and again. Okay, we can't do it every day. But they will accept it if they know that you care about them, that you're invested in them, and that you're in it, and they trust you, and you're consistent. So I love the idea that be consistent, but be strong. And be demanding, but don't be emotional. Okay? Be consistent, be strong, but don't be emotional. The grass is green, the sky is blue, and you're goofy-footed. Let's fix that problem today, and I'll help you. Okay? Check yourself and your words. Are you talking too much? Are you right in the sweet spot? Are you not talking enough? And so that's a good kind of self-check every day in practice. Lastly, we want to change lives. And I think that's where our job is unique. It's complex, it's hard, but it's also incredibly rewarding at times. And your words mean more to your athletes than you'll ever realize. And so some of us were probably college athletes. Some of us were probably high school athletes. And I bet you remember some of the things that your coaches said to you along the way. Some things that are just ingrained in your head that you're never going to forget, good or bad. And I bet for some of us, I know this is the case for me, you remember those little moments with your coach more than you remember any win, any MVP trophy you ever get, any championship that you ever get. You're going to remember those moments with your coaches 10, 20 years down the road more. You're going to value them more. And so, we're done in 3 minutes, but I'll tell you one quick story. I was once upon a time a coach at Arizona State. And we had an athlete who was a freshman. She came into the head coach's office. And this particular head coach was like Carl. He needed to work on his relationship skills a little bit. And the comment that he made to this particular athlete was, "You're the worst hitter on our team. You're the worst hitter on our team." And it just came out like, again, the grass is green, the sky is blue, and you're the worst hitter on our team. So I'm sitting here going like that year my entire job was like building bridges. That particular athlete went on to be a 4-year starter at outside. She was one of our little 5'10" girls that was just scrappy and a baller. She still works camps for Gold Medal Squared today. And when we go out and have dinner and joke, and I haven't seen her for a year, what do you think we talk about? The worst meeting that ever happened at Arizona State. It wasn't a great kill, it wasn't a great win we had, it wasn't anything on the court, nothing. What do you think comes up every time? That. So, what do we remember, what do your athletes remember? And just know that the impact you can have on these kids is enormous. My coach, it sounds awful to say, but my coach had a bigger impact on my life than my parents did. It's hard for me to say that, but it's true. And I don't think I'm alone there. And so you have to understand that when these kids come in this gym, for some, this is a really important place for them. And you're a really important person for them. And so go back to consistency and building relationships and giving your love and your trust to these kids. It's going to be so immensely valuable and important to their lives, even if they don't go on to play college. And so my wife played high school basketball, and she loved her high school basketball coach. He invested so much time and energy in her, and to this day, she still talks about how much she loved her high school basketball coach. And so just because you guys are at the high school level, junior high school level, club level, whatever, these athletes are going to remember the things that you say to them. I promise you. So there's that. We want to change lives as coaches, and we can. We're in an opportunity where we can do that. So, you know it all. We violated every rule that we have at Gold Medal Squared. We information overloaded you guys big time. But we have to because we only have 2.5 hours. So the good news is tomorrow we get to go and try it on the court with your teams. And so for those of you that are coming, we're at the different facility, right? We're at the north facility. We're starting practice at 9 o'clock. No, yeah, 9 o'clock. We'll probably be there around 8. So you guys can come hang out with us, write on the whiteboards with our coaches, figure out how we're structuring practice, learn about pre-practice activities. If you're coming tomorrow and you're going to be on a court, you're not allowed, I just ended with this nice warm fuzzy thing and now I'm going to crack down here. You're not allowed to just stand around. Okay? If you're going to invest your time on a Saturday to get better at coaching, you're going to help our coaches coach. And you got to learn how to score drills. You got to watch them give feedback. You have to give feedback. If you're a new coach, jump right in there. We're going to help you. We're going to be right by your side the whole time. Okay? And so if you're coming tomorrow, be ready to coach. Be ready to be involved. So we're starting at 9 sharp. Be there probably no later than 8:30. If you want to come earlier and hang out and watch us do the whiteboard, then feel free. Thank you.